Yo, it's J5. On today's video, we will be talking about college football, man. It has already been a month of college football. And I know my last video, my last video on college football was my season preview. School was more chaotic in this first month than I expected, so I didn't really have time to, you know, make videos. So here I am a month later at the college football started. Um, I will be giving you guys my top 12 playoff teams. As you guys know, we have a 12-team playoff format this year. I will be going over my week 5 reactions, my top 4 Heisman's candidates, and then I'll talk about a few teams that we were high on this season and kind of where they stand at right now. Um, so let's get right into it, guys. Starting off, my 1 seed. You have to give it to Alabama. If you guys didn't watch that Alabama and Georgia game, pure classic, pure classic. 28-0 for Bama to start the game. They started that game way probably way better than they expected, honestly. But yeah, you gotta give credit where credit is due. Great job by Georgia, fighting back. But right now, Alabama, they clearly have the best win in the country, and they are my 1 seed. 2 seed out of the Big Ten, Ohio State. They're clearly the best team in the Big Ten right now. If they had more competitive games and if they had a win like Alabama does, they would definitely be my 1 seed. Not only because I'm an Ohio State fan, but just because that's I feel like that's why they're not. That's why they're not the 1 seed because, like I said, they didn't have a competitive non-conference schedule. And even to start Big Ten play, they started with Michigan State. Of course, they rolled them. Then uh, we got Iowa. I think someone in between, and then we have Oregon as well. So obviously, conference play is coming up. We will get to showcase, our true talents when conference play um, goes into effect. 3 seed out the ACC, I got Miami. Kind of scary game on Friday against Virginia Tech. Their ACC opener, but ultimately, they did end up winning the game. Controversial call at the end of the game. We will get into that later. But yeah, right now my 3 seed is Miami, and my 4 seed out of the Big 12, you got to give it to Kansas State. They just took down Oklahoma. Um, if Utah would have beat Arizona on this past week, Arizona would be my current Big 12 champ, but Utah ended up losing to Arizona. So right now, all the top 4 Big 12 teams, they do have a loss between Arizona, Utah, Oklahoma State. They now have 2 losses. Kansas State has 1 loss, that being to BYU. A little sleeper team that could win the Big 12 is Iowa State. Iowa State is looking pretty solid to start the year. So watch out for Iowa State. They may take the Big 12. Guys, 1 second. I'm getting an important phone call right now. All right, guys, I'm back. I do apologize for that. I did have to take that phone call. I believe I left off talking about Iowa State. Not gonna stay too much back on them, but I just feel like Iowa State is a sneaky team that could win the Big 12. So just watch out for them when the year comes to a close, because I feel like they could be in that Big 12 championship game. Now moving on to the 5th seed, I have the Texas Longhorns. Just consistent play from them. They had that big win over Michigan. although Michigan isn't looking like the greatest right now, so that win was good. They did travel to Michigan, so that makes it look even better. And they completely dominated in that game. So Texas, my fifth seed right there. Um, Sixth seed, I have Georgia. Um, although like you could have Tennessee above Georgia right now. Um, actually, yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna have Tennessee as my sixth seed just because Tennessee is the undefeated team right now. They have a conference win over Oklahoma. That was their SEC opener. Their freshman quarterback Nico. I'm not gonna try to pronounce his last name. I don't want to mispronounce it. But he went into Oklahoma on the road first true road start. Um, it was in SEC play, so they opened up their conference play with a huge win, with a statement win, in that Tennessee Oklahoma game. And then I really like how Dylan Sampson is playing. The running back, he's truly a dynamic running back, and he just he adds to Tennessee's already explosive passing game. So he could do it through the air, and he could do it on the ground as well. They have a solid defense, and then they have some big upcoming matchups between Bama at home and then on the road against Georgia, and that moves me into my seventh seed, which will be Georgia. They have that loss against Alabama. You like to see how they came out in that second half. That really did look like Georgia football. So I mean, if they could play like that all four quarters, for the rest of the year, I mean, it's like why can't Georgia win the national championship? Um, so yeah, short and sweet right there. Georgia is my seventh seed. Moving on to the eighth seed, I have Oregon. Um, Oregon, they haven't looked like the elite Oregon team that we kind of expected going into the season, but still, they're getting wins. They haven't had that slip up game yet, but I really think we're going to get a very nice look at this Oregon team, and how they're going to look in the future when they do play Ohio State on October 12th at home. That's going to be a very huge weekend, very huge game for the Oregon Ducks right there. And if they put all things together, they could definitely win that game. But I just have Oregon as my AC right now because, like I said, Oregon was kind of a national championship favorite, and they just haven't looked truly that dominant as they did last season. When they brought over Dylan Gabriel, another veteran quarterback at play in that Dan Lanning system, you didn't really think that they would miss a beat at all, especially when they still have Tez Johnson, and then of course they brought over Evan Stewart in the transfer portal. So they have weapons. They have a run game with Jordan James. He had a lot of reps last year behind Bucky. And then still they have a solid defense. Of course, not as good as last year, but they haven't really played anybody. Well, I mean they play Boise State. Boise State has a solid defense. I mean offense, but I mean you just expect Oregon to look much more dominant, especially with the type of personality that Dan Lanning has as a head coach. Moving on to my ninth seed, I have Penn State. Penn State has looked way more explosive than we seen last year. They have a new offensive coordinator, and that's just been truly a perfect match for Drew Aller. I believe he has multiple 300-yard passing games. I know that West Virginia game was a true breakout game for him. I believe that was a week 2 game, and yeah, they had a bunch of explosives that game. They just had a very nice win over a Illinois team that was ranked 21, I believe. They won that game 21-7 at home. And with Illinois that has a very good defense. Penn State put all things together in that game: defense, offense, special teams, and they end up winning 21-7. Um, and when they play Ohio State, we're gonna see if those explosive plays can continue to come into effect. I mean, if Penn State continues to play the way that they do when they come across Ohio State, I'm going to be very excited for that game because it's been a few like these past few Ohio State Penn State matchups haven't really lived up to it just because simply Ohio State's just always been more talented. So if Penn State can hit those explosive plays when they're able to, that matchup should be very well and highly um high scoring game. Sorry. Um, Onto my 10th seed, I have Clemson. Uh, in that week 1 game against Georgia, they got rolled. They played it was a defense battle. In the first half, I believe going into the half, I think it was only 3-0. If not 3-0, then 10-0. But they just couldn't get anything going on offense. And then the following week against Applic, I think pretty sure it's App State. Um, I think they had like 50 points almost in the first half. Um, and then they just haven't looked back since. The offense just continues to get better. You know that they have an elite defense as it came to play. Even in that week 1 game against Georgia, their defense held it down for them. But of course, it's hard to hold down Georgia for all 4 quarters, as you've seen this past weekend against Alabama. But yeah, Clemson they're looking much better, and they're getting prepared to see Miami in the ACC championship because right now in the ACC it's pretty much just Clemson and Miami because Florida State is buns. My 11th seed, I'm really not sure who to put right here. You could go Notre Dame. They had a very upsetting loss against NIU in week 2. But after that NIU game, they came back against, believe it was Purdue. They won by 1 million. This past week, they played Louisville. The game got much closer than it should have been towards the end of the game. They honestly should have won that game by probably 21 points, but they allowed Louisville back in the game, and that's just because of the fact that they don't really have a passing game right now, and I feel like that's going to be their downfall if they do get into the playoffs. As you guys know, I was very high on Notre Dame. I said that they can possibly make a national championship run. But if they don't figure out a passing game of Riley Leonard, it's gonna be very hard for them to make noise in the playoffs. Like I said, you could have USC right here. They came off a heartbreaking loss against Michigan. They completely folded in that game. Terrible way to lose that game. But they came back against Wisconsin. Very bad first half. But their defense produced a shutout in the second half, and they ended up winning that game by, I believe it was 15 points, or maybe like 16, something like that. I know it was more than 2 scores. So solid way to bounce back. But I mean, also you could have Ole Miss right there, because they're another 1-loss team, along with Notre Dame and USC. But Ole Miss just came off a loss against Kentucky. They got upset at home to begin their SEC play. So, I mean, that 11th seed is kind of really hard for me right now. Like I said, it's a toss-up between Notre Dame, USC, Ole Miss. Yeah. Moving on to the 12th seed, Power 5, Boise State. Ashton Genty, man. If you guys don't know that name, go ahead, look him up, and you will see through 4 games, he's already over 800 yards, and he has 13 touchdowns already. And even when they played Oregon in week 2, they gave Oregon a run for their money, and they almost they almost put off an upset as they only lost 37 to 34, and even in that game, Genty had 192 yards and 3 touchdowns. So Ashton Genty, he's clearly the best running back in the country, and he's single-handedly he may put Boise State in the playoffs just because of his play. So, like I said, these are my 12 playoff teams as after week 5. I'll go over them one more time. 1 seed Bama, 2 seed Ohio State, 3 seed Miami, 4 seed Kansas State, 5 seed Texas, 6 seed Tennessee, 7 seed Georgia, 8 seed Oregon, 9 seed Penn State, 10 seed Clemson, 11 seed Notre Dame, USC, Ole Miss, one of those three. 12 seed Boise State. Now let's move in to my top 4 Heisman candidates after week 5. First one, you have to give it to Jalen Monroe. He has the best one in the country, and he just looks like a completely different quarterback than he was last year. Right now, he already has 964 passing yards, 273 rushing yards, and 18 total touchdowns to 1 interception. And the way that he played in that Georgia game, the plays that he was making, the runs that he had, when they were behind the sticks, he picked up big first downs, long touchdown runs. Well, not really long. I think his longest one was maybe like 30 yards, but still, he's just been playing great all season. He looks much better as a passer. He really took a leap this year, and with that win against Georgia, I think he really deserves that number 1 Heisman spot right now. Number 2, back to Ashton Genty, man. Like I said, he's single-handedly putting Boise State in playoff contention, and 845 rushing yards through 4 games is insane. 13 total touchdowns. That's just crazy work. How Ali Gordon came onto the scene last year. It's pretty much how Ashton Genty is now. Although Genty, he had a very nice year last year, but he's just adding to it this year. So if Boise State right now they only have 1 loss, if they can continue the season winning games, get into the playoffs, I do believe that Ashton Genty could be a Heisman candidate. Excuse me, let me grab some water. Now number 3, Travis Hunter out of Colorado. Everyone knows who Travis Hunter is. He plays both sides of the ball, receiver and cornerback, and he barely takes plays off. A receiver, he had 4 straight 100-yard games this past week against UCF. He had 89 yards and 1 touchdown and interception that game. And Colorado, that win against UCF, it was a complete win. It was a very good win for them. Not a lot of people expected them to win that game, but Travis Hunter, if Colorado had, it's like, what does Colorado's record have to be? What does it have to be in order for Travis Hunter to be in Heisman contention? To me, I don't. I say if they have 5 losses, honestly, forget the record. The things that Travis is doing, you don't see anyone else in the country doing. So with that alone, and he's producing on both sides of the ball. Like I mentioned, he had an interception last week. He's rarely targeted on defense, and that's just because he's just that good at cornerback. And then for him to flip over to defense, and to offense and produce there, it's just that's Heisman stuff right there. If everybody was able to do it, I'm sure we'll see a lot of people doing it, but we don't. So Travis Hunter, Right now, he's my third Heisman candidate, and my fourth one. Like I said in my season preview, this was my Heisman prediction winner, and it was looking really good until Jalen Milroe had this game. But it is Cam Ward. Right now, he's over 1,700 passing yards. He has 20 total touchdowns, but 4 interceptions. Excuse me. But Miami is back, and it's because of Cam Ward. Like I said, they had a scare game against Virginia Tech, and I want to say he had 2 interceptions that game, if not two, then maybe three. But I know for sure he had two. But he turned what was a bad game into a Heisman moment, kind of. There was plays in that game where he was very close to being sacked, and then he was able to escape the pocket, or just find someone that was next to him to flip the ball to them, and his teammates made a play. But Cam Ward is the reason that Miami is 5-0 right now, and he's definitely in Heisman contention. If he just cuts down the interceptions, continues his great quarterback play, then there is a chance that he can win Heisman. But like I said, if Jalen Milroe keeps this up, Jalen Milroe may be the Heisman winner. So those are my 4 Heisman candidates after 5 weeks of college football. Let's move on to my Week 5 reactions. And first up, Michigan is cooked. They're done. They don't have any consistent play at quarterback. And when you don't have consistent play at quarterback, they were able to. No, they had good quarterback play last year. So I can't even bring up last year, but everyone on defense, they're just not threatened by the pass at all. So when it comes to a point where Michigan, if they have to punt, and if they're playing a team like Ohio State, Oregon, USC, I can't even say USC because they lost to USC. But my point is, like, Michigan, they don't have much. They're not able to make many mistakes. If they make mistakes against good teams, they're gonna get blown out the water. And just because of that, and I'm sure the community knows that, I don't think Michigan will get into the playoffs unless they beat Ohio State. Like I mentioned before, they've beaten us 3 straight years. If they make it a fourth, then we may see Michigan in the playoffs. Sadly, no one wants to see that team in the playoffs. Moving on, Ole Miss might have cooked their season. They just lost to Kentucky, an unranked team. Right now, they're ranked 12th, but when you look ahead to their schedule, they play South Carolina, they play LSU at LSU, they play Oklahoma at home, they play at Georgia. So if they lose to Georgia, that's already 2 losses. And with them losing to that Kentucky team that was unranked, although it was conference play, do they get in with 2 losses? And, they beat LSU last year. If LSU comes back for revenge and they get that win against Ole Miss, that's 2 losses before they even see Georgia. They could lose to Oklahoma, although Oklahoma hasn't looked that good this year. But, Oklahoma, they could beat Ole Miss. But let's just say they lose to LSU on the 12th of October. They beat Oklahoma. The only way they can save their season is if they beat Georgia. If they beat Georgia, that's going to really, really move their chances up here rather than being down here to get into the playoffs. But with Georgia, my prediction for Georgia after they just lost to the Alabama game, I don't think Georgia is going to lose again. They play Texas. They play Tennessee. They play Ole Miss. I just don't think those are all three very, very hard games. But I just don't think Georgia is going to lose again this season. Um, moving on. Freshman receivers may be the best in the country right now. First off, let's talk about Ryan Williams. Everyone knows he's 17 years old. Every time Alabama is playing, we hear it. Ryan Williams, 17 years old, born in 2007. He's supposed to be in high school right now. So. But, man, is he making plays. He's living the life right now for sure. And for him to be the hero of that Alabama and Georgia game at 17 years old and to lead his team in receiving, and it's not like he's on this, Power 5 school. He's at Alabama in the SEC producing. And it's really amazing to see because, like, if you think about it, like, he's supposed to be going up against high schoolers right now, but instead he's playing against Malachi Starks in the biggest game of the season so far, and he's scoring touchdowns. He's making game-winning plays. Jalen Milroe is looking for him when he needs a play. And every time, Ryan Williams has made the play so far. And then when you go over to Ohio State, Jeremiah Smith. I said it before. He may go down as the best receiver in Ohio State history, and he's already off to a great start. And if he continues this throughout his career, he will be the greatest receiver in Ohio State history. The plays that he made against Michigan State, over two guys, a one-handed snag. And then the next play, or a few plays later, on the sideline, sticks his palm up, snags it down, touchdown. And this is just not those two plays that he's made throughout the season. Let's not forget, the first pass that was thrown to him, he dropped it. The first pass that was thrown to him, he dropped it. And after that, he didn't look back. He didn't look back on that drop. Next play mentality, he got right to work, and he's been making a name for himself that was already known. Everybody already knew him coming into the season, and now they really know him. It's crazy that an 18-year-old and 17-year-old, actually don't quote me on that. I don't know if Jeremiah Smith is 18-year-old, but him being a freshman, I would assume. But like I said, don't quote me on that. But Jeremiah Smith, freshman receiver out of Ohio State. Ryan Williams, freshman receiver out of Alabama. They are the two best receivers right now. Right now. They might be. Like I said, McMillan from Arizona, that boy is tough. But and then you got Luther Burden at Missouri. But I mean, hey, it's just impressive to see what these freshmen are doing. Let's talk about that controversial play in Miami. First off, it was just crazy that the play was called a touchdown. I'll put a clip of the play up right here so you guys can see it. But it was just crazy that the play was called a touchdown. I think that the only reason they called it as a touchdown was so that they could review it. But I'm not sure if they would have been able to review it if they didn't call it a touchdown. But regardless, with both players, going after the ball comes out. It's like clearly no one had pure possession of the ball. So obviously you have to call it incomplete. But I mean, hey, I needed Miami to win that game. I'm glad Miami won that game. You guys let me know in the comments if you guys thought it was a touchdown, if you guys think it should have been a touchdown. Just let me know your thoughts on that play in the comments. And then my last Week 5 reaction, like I said, Clemson is preparing to beat Miami in the ACC championship. Clemson's continue to get better and better. And ACC championship game between them and Miami, I think that would be a great Friday night watch or Saturday night watch, whenever they will put it on. But before earlier in the season, after that Clemson Georgia game, I was like, Miami might roll right into the playoffs with no pure battles. Um, but I believe Clemson can give Miami a run for their money. Obviously, I said in my season preview that Miami is my ACC winner, so obviously I will stick with Miami. But it's just real encouraging to see Clemson make a comeback like this, because I mean, hey, Clemson might be back. Clemson might be back. So last segment, let's talk about a few teams I was high on this season and how they're looking right now. Ohio State, first team up, Natty. We going to the Natty, man. We're going to the Natty. We have the best defense in the country. Although, like I said, we haven't played nobody, but we're going to the national championship. I don't care what anybody says. We're winning the Big Ten. We're running through the playoffs. And it's going to be real exciting to see us face off against, I don't care who we play in that national championship, because we're winning. We might get some scary games here and there. Of course, you're playing great schools in the playoffs. But I just have no doubt in my mind that Ohio State is going to win the national championship. Like I said, number one defense, and we damn sure have a top 3 offense. We could be number one, but I'm not going to say that because, like I said, we haven't played nobody. But we have two-headed monster between Henderson and Junkins in the backfield, and then Jeremiah Smith, Abuka, Carnell Tate. We got playmakers everywhere. I didn't mention them in my season preview, but Missouri. I really like Missouri going to the season, but they just haven't looked that dominant, and everybody knows Luther Burden, but he's not having the season that we expected, at least to start. Brady Cook, he hasn't looked the best on a lot of his throws. He's either underthrowing them, overthrowing them. He's just not accurate right now. And their Week 6 matchup is against Texas A&M. Currently, that spread is a 1.5 point spread. So, and it's at A&M. So that's going to be a very, very big game for the Missouri Tigers. I believe they're coming off a bye, so they had some time to prepare for this game. And I think they need a statement win right now just to get the committee on their side a little bit. I'm not sure what their ranking is. I can't confirm it off the top of my head. I should have had that down for you guys. But yeah, Missouri, they just need to get to. We need to see some dominant play for them. Notre Dame, my last team. Man, bro. They need a damn passing game. Right now, their offense is Jeremiah Love on the ground and Riley Leonard on the ground. And Riley Leonard is their damn quarterback. Now, nothing's wrong with that, but it's like, damn. Can we pass the ball? Can we get some 70-yard touchdowns or something like LSU had? Because, they have Dan Brock, who was LSU's coordinator last year. So it's like, can we translate that to Notre Dame? But if they want to compete with the top dogs and they want to make a run, like I said, their defense is elite. They have a top 3 defense for sure. But that offense, man, they need to get it together. They need to get it together quick. Luckily, they don't play anybody else really. They have Florida State at home, I believe, or that might be a neutral site game, and then they finish their season off at USC. So they can definitely still get into the playoffs. They just need to to get these dominant wins. Um, Actually, let's do this off the top of my head. Let's talk about Arizona. Um, like I said, Fafita and McMillan, I believe that they could be able to lead Arizona to the Big 12 championship game. They just had a very, very big win against Utah was. Um, and I wasn't expecting that, but Cam Rising, he's been dealing with a hand injury, so he didn't play that game. So they played a freshman quarterback. But either way, they played at Utah, and everyone knows playing at Utah is very, very tough. And for them to go out into that game, it was pretty much a fist fight too, because um, Arizona, the first week, McMillan had 300 receiving yards. So you were just like, wow, is this what we're about to see all season? But really, since that game, we haven't. I think he had one 100-yard game, and then this Utah game, he had 50 yards. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what he did week 2, but I know that Kansas State game, he had 100 yards, I believe. But we just haven't seen McMillan and Fafita really have an explosion type game consistently. So I'm not giving up on Arizona. I still like them to make a run for the Big 12 championship. I know a few. I know they play West Virginia. Who else do they play? I know they got Houston. Like I said, this off the top of my head, but yeah, I still like Arizona. I just their defense really is their run game, run defense I should say, their run defense, and that came to come into effect against Kansas State because they got rolled that game. They couldn't stop the run at all. That's really why they lost that game. So like I said, I'm not giving up on Arizona. I still like them to make a run at the Big 12. And yeah, that's gonna do it for this video, guys. I should be able to get more consistent video out for you guys. Look out for my YouTube shorts. I'm going to be posting my week 6 predictions for the top 25 teams this weekend. Although this weekend isn't that exciting. But yeah, I'm gonna start doing that for you guys. Make sure you guys subscribe, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss any of my uploads. Make sure you guys like this video, share it to someone who may be interested. That's gonna do it.